There's a new day around here on Roku, and of course, this production company that was born 5 years ago out of being told we're done now.
I'm glad we can laugh now about it.
Oh, we can laugh now about it.
We were like, whew.
Once upon a time, it was too soon.
You called me in Europe.
Rich, I thought I was moving back to Altoona.
Well, but everybody around here believed. And I appreciate that. And we are ride or die because of it. And thankfully, it's ride or live. And part of our relationship with Roku, which we love, has blossomed into another show that I'm producing along with Susie. And Hello Sunshine, Reese Witherspoon's production company for Roku. And the sponsor, Miller Lite, has been just terrific. And put it all together, and it's the first weekly show on women's sports, 1 hour long, called Women's Sports Now. In case anybody's wondering, it's not Women's Sports Later. It's Women's Sports Now, everybody. And Susie is one of the hosts, along with Renee Montgomery, NCAA champion, WNBA champion, and part owner of the Atlanta Dream. Speaking of dreams, there is Sarah Tiana.
Hey.
To bring her blend of humor and diehard sports fandom.
Diehard.
I never thought I would meet more of a hard-headed sports fan than you, Chris. But you,
I know.
You met one.
I did.
You've made a child with one. Sarah is that. She's got a lot of opinions on sports, and they're unshakable. And then one of my favorites from NFL Network, and yours, TJ. By the way, we record Wednesdays when Colleen Wolf is here, in case you're wondering.
Thanks.
You're welcome. And all four of them together, instant chemistry. It's awesome. And the first episode is right here on Roku for you to take in of Women's Sports Now, recorded here in our studios on Wednesday. And Shaquille O'Neal was the first guest in a Zoom, and the first in-studio guest, Corey Close, the head coach of the number one overall seeded UCLA Bruins of the women's tournament that begins this very weekend, including UCLA on Friday night here in Los Angeles. So Coach Close was kind enough to just hop in a car, come down the 405, and be the first ever in-studio guest for this show.
That's dope.
And it really was great. It is great. Not was. It is great. And we'll give you a little taste here. Susie Zoomed with Shaq.
That's her guy, man.
I mean, that's another ride or die, right? I mean, they met.
No doubt.
They met a quarter century ago, if I may date it.
Shaq yelled at me once because he thought I interrupted Susie during an interview. He's like, "You don't interrupt." I shut up.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
And and Shaquille O'Neal would always, look at the diamond ring I gave to Susie when we got engaged. He's like, "Oh, let me take a look at that." He didn't know that I had enough class
to buy a ring.
And he always did that. And you know how Shaq would sometimes dance behind some of the female reporters when they're doing their thing. Susie once upon a time told him, if you do that to me, I will I think she might have said she would knee him in the nuts.
Yeah, I remember you or her told me that story. And he stopped.
So they go way back, like the proverbial car seat. Here's a great exchange with her and Shaquille O'Neal, and then Renee Montgomery's reaction to what he had to say about lowering the rims in the WNBA so there could be dunking.
How about the WNBA?
Love the way they play. A lot of great girls. There's rival things. Angels team won yesterday. That actually, gave them some extra momentum. I gave them a solution on how they can make similar money. Nobody seems to like my solution, which is understandable. But let me tell you my theory behind my solution. The only difference between their game and our game is the dunk. We have guys with great handles. They have got females with great handles. We have guys that are great shooters. They have great shooters. Only thing that's missing is the dunk. So I think if you lower the rim, I'm not saying lower it to, like 9'5" or 9 foot, because in women's volleyball, the nets are different. And you see women's beach volleyball is just as popular as men's beach volleyball. So I think if you lower it a half an inch, and listen, Candace is going to hear this, all the women are going to hear this, they're going to get mad, but I think that will add much more excitement to the game.
He said it out loud about the rims and lowering the rims, Shaq. Why? And he knew it, too. He said Candace and all the other female athletes are going to be upset. It's like, I'm not upset, but it's also, I think the product is good as is. Like, and even right now, as the NBA is struggling when it comes to viewership, I think there's a lot of suggestions about what to do with women's sports and especially women's basketball. But I think if you look at college basketball, there's no problem with the numbers.
Like lowering the rim, I mean, that you would have to change your shot, and Shaq would know that if he ever made a jumper.
Oh, that is so cold. I'm trying to get him to come in studio, and you're throwing some shade.
Get him in here. Let's go.
By the way, yeah, women's basketball NCAA rankings are the highest they've ever been, so that's doing just great.
18 million people watched the women's Final Four last year. 14 million people watched the men's Final Four last year. I'm assuming that there were more dunks in the men's than women's. Your Honor, I rest my case.
Every Thursday, right here on Roku, a Roku original series, Women's Sports Now. Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.